So we have had such a great time talking about orgasms lately on the Good Girls podcast that we have more questions today. So, Kay, today you're our researcher. Here's your co-host, SJ, to talk about
orgasms. So this
your
really
pinnacle,
started,
as they say in Bridgerton.
and it started that we wanted to dive in a little bit on squirting, how prevalent it was,
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
And I just want to start off with a little quiz
Can
for
I start
you.
off with a different word?
You don't like the word squirting?
I think it's because when I was a kid, my dad used to call me Squirt, which I think used to be like a nickname for a little kid. But now as an adult, I'm just really triggered by that, and that's problematic, and I wish he hadn't called me that.
I had a former lover who called me Squirtle. But
Okay, and also, you're right, also
But-
the connection in my mind with the Pokemon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that too. Okay.
I feel like I should clarify. I'm not myself a squirter. It was more puddles. Okay. So, and this
Let the record reflect.
yes, it was only one person. Oh my gosh, how crazy. Like, there's only one person for the rest of my life who might actually know the truth. So anyways, just real fast. Do you
You're
think
kinda
that a
close.
female ejaculation and squirting are the same thing or different things?
I think the same thing, but maybe when the word squirt gets used, it's more water pressure.
So there is some controversy to that we will get in later when we enter into the female ejaculation.
Oh, thank you. I should also
Squirting.
say that I feel like most of my knowledge about this comes from ping pong shows in Thailand and stuff, so I don't know how much of that is stage theatrics, but I have heard that it is actually all like within the vaginal training of these very talented ladies and lady boys.
Okay, so there's definitely some context to how ping pong relates to this that I'm missing here.
What a ping pong show is? Oh, just that they do other things too. Like there's one where she can like put out a cigarette with her like a little puff of air. They can do a lot of really cool stuff. I'm
Okay,
gonna
so it
find you
is not
videos.
true ping pong.
Well, there are ping pong balls involved, but they're multi-talented. It's not just ping pong balls.
So
I'll send you videos.
I also want to start that I think a scene that a lot of us know is Bree from Desperate Housewives. So she basically thought that she had a stroke, and it ended up being an orgasm. Emergency
Oh,
department.
because she's
and
like
she
never
describes the
actually
doctor.
orgasmed before.
Yes, and she's like, and the doctor is like, I think that you've had an orgasm, and she goes, No, I've had many orgasms before. That warm sensation, the tingling relief of feeling that it's over.
So she's like, I'm just feeling that there was some blood flow to my genital area and confusing that with an orgasm. I feel like there was another book where that happened too.
And happy that my bad sex is done with. And then there was this amazing review done of what all the different romantic novels. It was not romantasy. I should clarify that. But
That's good because at the end of the episode, I want to have a genre discussion due to some important happenings in social media.
wonderful.
Put a pin in it.
So Christine Cabrera and Amy Dana Menard, they titled it She Exploded into a Million Pieces, a qualitative and quantitative analysis of orgasms in contemporary romance novels.
This is my favorite kind of science. If I had known I could do this kind of research, I would have gotten a PhD.
It was beautiful. It was a literal, like, statistical, quantitative analysis and qualitative, and they looked at romance writers of America's best contemporary single title winners from 1989 to 2009 to look at frequency, context, types of stimulation, and changes over time, qualitative themes. So wonderful. I'm not going to get into all of that, but what I am somewhat obsessed with is that they said that like violent terms were often used to describe having the actual orgasm, and I was like, well, what do they mean by violent?
Like
But
exploding
then
into
any
a
of
million
us,
pieces.
yes, exploding into a million pieces. I'm shattered. I died on the spot, and I kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I loved hearing it described as violent. Physical transformation, emotional bonding, dramatic changes in the character. We've all obviously felt that. I
Yes.
feel very transformed emotionally after my orgasm. Yeah, the dramatic, the violent imagery, death-like metaphors, and betrayals of it
Oh, it's
as
like
a
in French,
shared
the word
experience.
for orgasm in French is like petit mort. It's like the little death.
Which I kind of like Little Death. I don't mind Little Death that
It's
much.
not a big one, not exploding into a million pieces, just like little death.
They and they had a lot that this is kind of separate because I feel like we've talked about the orgasm gap and we've talked about all the different ways that the vaginas can be stimulated. And right now we're really talking more about like what actually happens physically when there's an orgasm
Mhm.
versus all that stuff. But I did want to mention that they did address that it's always because of the male skill and the male agency that the woman is orgasming, where I think that we know in real life during sex the woman knowing what she's doing and also having some control over like the angles and positioning
Yeah.
can help a lot in making that happen. And so I'm just picturing a 20-year-old girl whose experience comes mainly from reading romance novels to be like, this man is just going to know everything about exactly what position I need and everything. And it's like, oh,
He's a
no.
vaginal cartographer. He's already mapped the wonderland that is her body with his
Yes.
magic. Oh, but again, we're
Maybe
not talking about romantasy, though. I think that is a thing that I like about romantasy is it tidies up a lot of random questions that I would have with the answer of magic. It's like, how is she like a virgin and he's a 500-year-old half fairy and they just have like amazing, like all their parts match magic?
yes.
Versus
Exactly.
romance novels, and it's more, "Oh, he's a pirate, and she's an 18-and-a-half-year-old that he kidnapped, but now they're falling in love."
And he's
And
excellent.
yeah, and I'm like, I just feel like I am less convinced by the pirate. I mean, A, not already having some kind of syphilis or something, and B, that he would be
They
a
never talk
skilled
about the
and gentle
syphilis.
lover. Yeah, nobody has syphilis in historical romances, and I wanna talk about that.
Yeah, we need a little bit more STD passing when they decide the, like, "Oh, fuck it about condom situation." That's not
Again
an that's a
again,
different
this is
thing.
a vote in the column for romantasy. Why do the 500-year-old fairies in their entire existence never have syphilis? Because fairies can't get
Yeah, they're
syphilis.
magic.
Magic.
You don't have to think about that part.
Yeah.
They just need to be on, like, some herb
Yeah, exactly.
for
They have
glasses.
herbal birth controls,
Yeah,
which presumably prevent
the tonic.
STIs too. Yeah.
So, the female orgasm is a complex neuroendocrine reflex involving the brain, genitals, and a surge of neurotransmitters. And it spans four distinct biological phases. Are you ready to really be turned on?
Yes.
So, first, there's like the
With a
excitement.
glass or cotton-tipped probe.
Oh my gosh. I actually have a lot of cotton tipped probed right now, but that's a different story. It is not for us.
I'm just saying, if you have extras and you wanna try any of the
I have
experiments,
200 extras. So we can get the whole neighborhood involved in
you can do all of
experiments.
Beverly Whipple's extra genital
Oh,
stimulation
do you feel
matrix.
it? Do you feel it? So first of all, there is, they call it vasocongestion, but I think what we really know is that it's a clit boner, where
Mhm.
there's more
Thank
blood
you
flow that
for the medical
causes
terminology.
the blood flow makes like the clitoris swell and the vagina walls lubricate. Heart rate and blood pressure begin to rise. Some people, I don't know, I've never looked at my pupils while I'm turned on, but like technically, like the black part starts taking
I do
over.
think that that gets mentioned a lot in romance novels. There's a lot about their eyes darkening, and, I was looking like, somebody was doing a funny
Hardly see
video
the color
about.
of their eyes anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like his eyes darken lustfully,
Yep.
but I think that that's actually a more romantic way of saying that their pupils are dilated because they're in stage 1 of sexy time.
A second part.
2.
Oh,
Okay.
physiological arousal intensifies, and in that one, the outer third of the vagina swells, and the clitoris retracts slightly under its hood as the tension builds.
Ooh.
And this is just from healthywoman.org to give my site. And then during the orgasm, that's like the peak of sexual tension. The muscles in the pelvic floor, uterus, and vagina undergo rhythmic spasms. So this had a big range. Some said that they typically lasted zero point 0.8 to 17 seconds, but I also saw as long as 60 seconds, and it just felt like there was a really, really big range here. And obviously, there's ways that you can make your orgasm last longer, apparently, like through Kegel exercises and
And
everything.
did you do any research into, like, the Kama Sutra kinda stuff of people who claim that they can have orgasms lasting, like, 15 to 20 minutes or longer?
Did you want a 15-minute orgasm?
Um, no.
Like, what are you gonna do? Just be like in like a
No, I don't, but I feel like
I
I'm
saw that you can
also
make it
don't do
longer
a
by
lot
for
of
like a
other
minute or
meditative
so.
thing, like the people that do the, like, cold plunges for, like, 15. I mean, like, a cold plunge, fine, whatever, like, I'll hop in there for 30 seconds, but, like, to people who are like, "Oh, if you train your body, you can do a cold plunge for, like, an hour," and I'm like, "Why?"
I know
I'm
some of
not
the
into the, like, extreme limits of, like, what we can stretch our mind and mind-body spiritual connection to do, that I'm just curious. It's a thing, so I'm curious.
I did see that there was ways to extend it. I did not get into the up to 15 minutes science. Maybe because even a minute, I was like, "I don't know, do you just, like, wanna be there spasming for a minute?" I'm not sure. And then in the resolution, it belongs
You may,
let's
like,
see.
reach a higher level of spiritual understanding. I was just reading a really smutty one where it's like a why choose one with her, like, her and a god and a demon and a different kind of demon that she spawned
I have had a really
herself.
bad influence on you.
I mean, I was reading it for podcast research purposes, but then I did finish it, so I don't know what that says about me. But in that case, especially because she is having sexy time with the god of magic, she's like ascending to another spiritual plane. Like I feel like, especially in the romantasy genre, you have ones where they like leave the earthly existence to ascend into the heavens. And then
The
if you were doing
orgasm.
that, you might want that to last up to 15 to 20 minutes.
Mr. K is good. I don't know if he's, like, ascending into heavens.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
But
you have to have some amount of divinity.
yeah, he's lacking the divinity. It's a major problem.
Wait. Okay, so I had to do some quick research because I feel like peer-reviewed literature is just not where it's at, and I want to know what Allure
The
magazine
famous
has to
line.
say. So they are saying in theirs, they're saying 20 seconds to 2 minutes, according to a Czech Republic academic-based journal, when the NIH just doesn't cut it. And it says extended orgasms do not peak and release quickly. The person holds off researching or reaching orgasm for an extended amount of time by being creative and building up to climax. So I feel like that's like a lot of edging stuff, which is also for men can improve or extend when you do get to the orgasm. So you asked why, and it says one goal of extended orgasm is to elongate the climax so as not to experience an energy crash as you might after a typical orgasm. So I am guessing that's what we get into with stage 4 is, the after, or is that the 4th stage? Is, like, the
Yes,
post-orgasm
it's a
part?
resolution where we don't have a refractory period like men do, and many of us do have the capacity to achieve multiple orgasms, but, we do technically return to an unaroused state
Yeah.
after our orgasm.
That is one thing that I've heard is that women who say that they have a very extended orgasm, when they actually are, like, researching it, which seems very awkward, but obviously if you can be observed while it's happening, is that I've heard that also for some women, they're actually having multiple orgasms back to back because that is possible for some women,
Well, that's I
because
think
there's no,
that
like, refractory period.
I think it's really hard to tell sometimes. Like, when
Yes.
you keep on going, like, because most orgasms aren't simultaneous. So, like, let's say that you're already in a position and you achieve an orgasm, but then you keep on going because your partner is close. Then, like, maybe
Mhm.
you have another one right then. And it's like, well, is that like all one big piece? It depends how we're counting here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's less relevant for women unless you just really need to document it for scientific purposes. Because functionally, what's the difference between 3 orgasms in quick succession and one really long orgasm? Especially, I think this can be a confusing thing for men who the orgasm is more defined because at least I know this isn't necessarily true and that I have heard that there are sometimes men orgasm without ejaculating, which sounds confusing. But generally for men, it's like very, okay, clearly you
Yes.
orgasmed and then that is that. And you can't have another one right away. So I think it's partially just that there are male partners asking for like details about it in order for them to be able to understand it because it would make more sense to them if they could understand it in the same terms that they are.
Yes. I agree with that because you can have excellent sex. And yeah. So, are you,
Um, well, okay, so I do have advice here on how to achieve an extended orgasm if you want it.
is it good advice?
Um, it's about what you'd expect. I don't know. So it's basically like exercise a lot. You need good blood flow, so having a healthy lifestyle.
I wasn't going to exercise or have a healthy lifestyle, but I guess I
Until you
will
knew that
now
you
that
could
I,
have a 2 minute
yeah.
until you could be experiencing a little death for up to 2 minutes. Relieve stress, lower your consumption of alcohol, blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
obvious things that I feel like you should just be doing anyway, and these are on the advice for everything. Okay, but then
Or
we
you
come
might just
to
orgasm more in general with all that stuff.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I just feel like that's improving your sex regardless of, like, if you're timing your orgasms. Here is where this is a specific one to having a longer orgasm that I've heard is practice edging. So they're suggesting doing it solo, um, to get yourself, uh So they said you can do, in general, edging is what I have heard is the best way. So if you're not familiar with the term, it's either you or a partner kind of bringing you to the brink of a climax and then like dialing it back right when you're about to hit. And that then when you do climax, that it's supposed to be longer or more enjoyable. So they're suggesting that you can practice it on yourself, which seems like you have need to have a lot of self control to do that, and, I just have, like, far too short of an attention span. Other ones are
So sometimes I'm like having a fun time with whatever I'm doing, whether it's like watching videos or like reading a dirty Jessica Kane style book. That
gotta be Jessica Kane.
I don't edge myself because I'm like, oh, I'm edging myself. It's more just like I'm having a good time and I want to continue on. And maybe
Yeah, or,
afterwards
like,
I don't feel the
things
same.
change up, and then yeah, I don't know that I would, like, do it on purpose a lot, but I'm also just, like, I think probably too ADD to, like, do it on purpose. Other ones are Kegel exercises, Kegel exercises, we can never decide how to pronounce it. Again, I feel like this is just a general thing that they
We'll
tell
call
you
them
to do.
Kegel for me. Kegel.
You put the K in Kegel.
Yes, exactly. It's just one.
And then breathing, which again, I feel like is like you can get into the more Kama Sutra-y kind of stuff. And there is like different like tantric breathing stuff that you can do. But um also it just
Really
says to like
similar to like
stay present and concentrate on your breathing and focus your energy inwards. So I
just
don't know, not really
general.
anything groundbreaking, although they all seem like good things to just do to improve your sex life in general. And then also edging, which some people like.
So, can we get into the squirting part of the episode?
That's why I'm here, okay?
I learned so much. So, it's very complicated. There's a female ejaculation, a lot serious, separate from squirting. There's vaginal lubrication, which can be so heavy that some people see that and call it the female ejaculate, but I think others would not.
Oh, I see. That makes
And then
sense.
there's also coital incontinence, where you just pee a little bit during sex, and that's confused as
And I think that's what we were talking about in the previous episode when she was, like, studying women who were very wet and or she they were I think that it was confusing
yes,
what the
and it
actual
only got more confusing the more that I dug, and unfortunately, there's no, like, expert panel on squirting here, so there's not really, like, a true north. There's just a lot of different
So, what you're saying is that there is still a gap waiting for a good girl to do
just
her
waiting for
PhD, to be the
us.
PhD of
Yes.
squirting.
And so FE is, like, a lingo, and that's female ejaculation, which, again, some call squirting. It occurs when there's clear fluid expelled from the urethra around Skene's glands right before or during an orgasm, and about anywhere from 4 to 54%, which is an extremely wide range, say that
Hmm.
they ejaculate, but only about 5% say that they squirt. Okay, so
And again, for the
the
people who say that they ejaculate, it might also just be, like, general confusion about the sheets are wet afterwards, and you're not really sure where it came
yes,
from,
especially if you're
and
just
you're not,
extremely
like,
wet during
performing a
sex.
chemical
Yes.
test. It would be interesting to hear, like, Reddit conversation on this because I feel like a lot of women are ashamed about it if there is any kind of liquid unless you have a guy whose, like, personal interest is in a woman who squirts.
They take some pride in it, but it's also like, their sheets and
I think
everything.
it depends on the woman too, especially because if you're coming from, like, a more conservative background and women are more, like, passive vessels and recipients of sex and, like, maybe you get off, maybe you don't, but, like, there's something that's sexually assertive about squirting, it seems like, so I feel like if you were in a more conservative context, that, like, anything to do with that would just be kind of shameful, so also if you're just generally like, "I don't know, there's some
So
dampness involved," you would just be like, "Quick, let me change the sheets."
so a wonderful person whose last name is Whippenzinger, did a survey on this. It was an international online survey on female ejaculation, and 78.8% of women and 90% of their partners said that female ejaculation made their sex lives better. But again, female ejaculation, separate from squirting, it's confused with
Mhm.
just like being heavily lubricated with like, your own natural vagina stuff.
Well, I also feel like in general and again, I'm assuming the people who participated in this were more likely people who are a little bit more sex positive, because if you're just
Yes.
ultra conservative,
You can't
you're not
discern.
participating in
Yeah.
research studies. So that is like a bit of a selection bias.
Yes.
But I do feel like there is a male thing that is very associated with, like you were saying in the romance books where the orgasms are very associated with male skill and prowess, and
Yes,
there
that
is
it's
this
like,
thought that's like,
yeah,
the wetter she is, the better of a job that you did,
it's
and
all me.
I appreciated in Emily Nagosi's book, Come As You Are, that she, talks a lot about how there's, like, so many things that contribute to whether a woman is wet or not, and sometimes it is just, like, due to hormonal fluctuations, due to different things coming on, like, you can be incredibly wet when you're, like, not turned on at all, and then, of course, there are other things that contribute to, like, having difficulty getting lubricated, like menopause, or perimenopause, even when you are turned on, but there is just we have a cultural association between amount of fluid present in the woman's sexual experience and male skill, assuming
Yes,
this is a hetero
yes,
pairing,
yes.
of
The
course.
other, like, late night, Mr. K came in and he's like, "Hey, well, you have sex?" And I was like, I mean, I'm down, but it's also, like,
Of
late, I
course.
was trying to go to bed. And then, he feels around, he's like, "Ooh, yeah, you definitely want this." And I was like, "Oh, no, you just got lucky."
Yeah,
It just
sometimes it is
happens to
just
be the
like your
soundtrack.
hormonal fluctuations. You'll just be super wet. And yeah, that is kind of funny when guys are like, "Oh, yeah." And I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
"No, no,
wanted
you have
this.
done
Yeah.
nothing to contribute to this, but feel great,
No.
feel great."
I was trying to go to sleep, I had a bunch on my mind, that's just a lucky situation. So, when I
I was just reading a Jessica Kane book. It had nothing to do with
oh my gosh, those just are, like
Jessica Kane plus hormones equals.
those made me, like, sopping. So, what's pretty interesting is that the fluid that comes out for the squirting or female ejaculate, the clear fluids, this is kind of separate from vaginal lubrication.
Mhm.
It's distinct from urine, but it often contains leftover bladder fluid and secretions from Skene's glands. So it's actually like primarily prostate enzymes and traces of urea. There's a lot of similarities in the semen makeup because the semen makeup also has the prostate specific antigen. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
not sexy, but it is
But
interesting.
interesting,
Yeah.
especially because the more I learn about this, the more I'm like, "Oh, there's just so many similarities and such a spectrum of differences." I don't know, when you are young, especially in growing up in a more conservative culture, that it's just like men are men, women are women, there's no such thing as intersex, like,
No, we're
we were
just sitting there
made
with
we
our
were created
boners
by God
hugging.
very
Yeah.
separately for separate purposes, and men are sex driven, women are not. And so it's just like the more that you learn that you're like, "Oh, we're all basically just kind of like functioning on variations of the same stuff."
Yeah, all on the same spectrum. So, what are Skene's glands? They're quote unquote called the female prostate.
Yeah, I didn't
They're
know we had a prostate.
two glands located on the front wall of the vagina surrounding the urethra, and they each contain openings that can't release ejaculate.
Oh,
They were discovered in 1880 by, of course, the man, Alexander Skene.
thanks, men.
We can call him Alex. I think we're on Alex terms. And then there was some stuff of whether making a person squirt takes specific stimulation where it's not just your clitoris, but it's also your anterior wall, the dreaded
Which
G spot,
would
which we're like,
fit
ah,
with
yeah.
why they were saying that for some people, they were saying they only ejaculate or squirt when they have a G spot orgasm. For that, approximately one quarter of society that says that they can achieve a G spot orgasm, or they call it
Jizz.
that.
It's all, again, it's like all very, very foggy, but there is some word there. So that's, those are the main things that I have learned about squirting and the orgasm.
Thank you for that, Dr. K. I am awaiting more research as we find that brave woman, or more likely man, apparently, because all research comes from men on women's bodies. I'm just kidding. It'll totally be a woman who decides to become the world's leading expert in squirting female ejaculation and other ways.
Yes, it's very interesting to think if you could monitor the vagina when it's, like, first getting wet and then when it's orgasming, to, like, the different locations the fluid is coming out of and the action and all that. Yeah, anyways,
Yeah.
fun.
This is totally gross, but when I thought that my cat had a UTI, they were like, "Oh, just have your cat pee on these clear non-reactive beads that has a collection thing underneath, and then we can, like, analyze it." because you can't get a cat to pee in a cup, and so they were like, "Oh, here, just, like, lay this down underneath," and so I feel like you could have a similar kind of thing that because it allowed you to collect at home, which is much better for your cat, but I feel like similarly with all these questions that we have about,
You start
fluids
doing
that come out of women.
self-collection.
Yeah, you have, like, a self-collection where you're, have, like, some kind of non-reactive thing that absorbs the sample, and then you can send it in for analysis, and then people can be doing it in the comfort of their own home so you don't have whatever data corruption happens when you have to be doing it in an office or, like, a place where you're under some kind of monitoring or machine. I'm just throwing this out there for the researchers
It's a good idea.
that are listening to the
Yeah.
podcast. I'm
Also,
just
just, like,
saying.
put it in you while you're, like, reading Jessica Kane or
Yeah,
watching
exactly.
Steven Sinkloff,
all
stuff.
all the classics, all the
Yes.
faves. Awesome. Well, quick episode follow up. I don't know. This might not be quick because I went down a rabbit hole. So this somehow popped up on my internet feed. So there's this author named Emily Weinstein who is having her debut memoir, which is called Turned to Stone, published by Simon and Schuster. So she's, out there. They tell you, get your social media presence going. So she has like some kind of this was I think originally on Threads, which I feel like there's always unhinged book discussions happening on Threads. Every time I go on there, I'm just like, I don't.
They're a little bit kinder than average, though.
Fair, and so I think that's what she's just posting something, and originally, it was just kind of some kind of post, which has since been taken down, that was more about the publishing industry in general and her experiences as being an author with her first time publishing, but she makes some kind of comment and, refers to the genre of romantasy, um, and another user just is like, "Hey, FYI, that the genre is called romantasy." And this lady goes off and turns into the most unhinged rant. She is now off of all social media. There are, yeah, we'll see.
So she reacted, "I don't care how you spell it. The entire genre sounds absolutely fucking
R word.
did R word and should be called unicorn fucking for dragon fillators,
Yeah,
fillators."
fillators.
Yeah, which I don't know why people choose to be mean.
I'm just like, yes, exactly. Especially as an author yourself who has probably gone through so much rejection to have your memoir published, which I'm sure is lovely. And even if
Which
I read it,
females would be the readers of and females love.
right, there was a whole bunch of comments about how she was just basically shooting herself in the foot because potentially a lot of her potential audience for this could be people who also enjoy some good romantasy. Um, yeah,
Whoa, she really she goes, "Oh, I think
romantasy, which
romantasy
was like,
sounds better. Whatever you wanna call your AI-generated unicorn sparkle sex party and gay hockey butt fucking and dragon fellatio is fine by me."
uh,
Yeah, okay.
this is a question because first somebody
You're
just
being a
corrects
little
her
mean.
for misspelling romantasy, and then she goes off about this, and people are just kind of like, "Ah, I think you're like merging a few different genres together, and like romance is different from romantic, or not all romance is romantasy, things like that." And then she goes off on this homophobic stuff about gay hockey butt fucking, which is just like super
Okay,
homophobic.
okay, so you're gonna hate on gay hockey romances and romantasy? Like, what's your
You
angle
also
here?
just may have eliminated half of female readers when you start going after the heated rivalry fan group, which again,
Is there
heated rivalry is like a totally different
Is there, like, some
genre.
bully, like, some male bully who's running her Threads account? If you ask a unicorn in a romantasy to come on your tits, does it double as body glitter? For unicorn jizz in a romantasy, is it jizz sparkly? Can you spell jizz? Jizz? Or is unicorn ejaculate spelled differently? And to be clear, nobody is saying these things besides her.
Well, yeah, so I did just, like, screenshot her stuff, but, like, that one was in response to somebody says, "I don't trust authors who can't spell." So then
Yeah.
she goes off about something about unicorn jizz, which also, I'm afraid to tell her about inanimate object romance, but, if you want to have a side conversation, Emily Weinstein, if you wanna be educated about the different kinds of ejaculate that come out of different inanimate objects, it can be flavored, it can be cotton candy, um, People also pointed out that, like, some of these things she may be thinking of Omegaverse and, like, other kinds of genres that are even more specific than romantasy, since a lot of her stuff, she's like, "Oh, like, fucking dragons, fucking unicorns." A lot of romantasy is, like, pretty non-smutty, um,
Wait,
w
Shane and Ilya and all their hot gay butt sex are not romantasy? Then what is? Was that too real because there was no unicorn cock? I don't think she's okay.
Yeah, no, totally, and then she gets called out for using the R word, um,
But
and
she
she
says that
says,
she's not used it as a
I'm not
slur.
using it as a slur. I truly believe that romantasy as a genre is, quote, less advanced in development than is usual for one's age, as the Oxford Dictionary on my MacBook defines it. I think writing or reading about sexualized unicorns or dragons or fairies or other fantasy creature is something that an intellectually, sexually, and or emotionally stunted and infantilized person would do, which,
She
like,
seems
this
emotionally
shit is
stunted.
not appropriate for children. Again, I want to have a PSA for people who do not read these genres that there's like two axes, but you can have like something, you can have like a romance that is like very real world based to very romantasy, but you can also have the smut meter along the other axis. So you can have romantasy that is like very tame, and is like the author obviously comes from like some Mormon origins and they like even have closed door kind of sex, or they have like I would
Yeah.
describe Sarah J. Maas's book until like
Sarah J. Maas's books
until Nesta goes
very
off on her, like,
intentionally oh
bad
my
girl
god.
journey, I would say, like, everything with Feyre is, like, very, vanilla sex, other than the fact that he has large wings. And then
It was like an epic fantasy novel that included a romance story and then thus was romantasy, but you wouldn't put it down as like, "That's an emotionally stunted writer." It was
and
extremely
as we
beautiful
have
stuff.
read on this episode, you then have romance that is set in our world that can go from very cute and quaint to the gangster holiday romance, breeding sex contract ones we read, and there's just, like, a whole world in there. Um anyway, my enjoyment has also just been the internet's response to this, and that a lot of people who are into the variety of genres that we have been discussing, um, just, like, basically responded, and they were like, "This sounds like a really good book. I would totally read
Yeah,
that."
nobody's
They're like,
being mean back to her. Everybody's just like, "You're not okay."
well, so and then people did respond to her and say, like, "That's not okay to use ableist slurs. What you're saying is homophobic. Like, we're gonna write to your, I don't know, like, your publisher, your company, whatever," emailing her representation. And she goes off saying that, like, people are threatening her and that this is, like, cancel culture, blah, blah, blah. Um, then she, like, basically, before she went off of Threads entirely, was just like, "Oh, I got onto this like, I had this horrible day because I, like, made this innocuous little post that got totally wrecked by chatbots," and she just, like, blames everything on AI, which I think is also she said in the earlier post that she's like, "Oh, all this is, like, shit written by AI," and I'm like, again, you can say that this is not for me or, like, I
It's
find
a
this to
very
be
big genre.
very, like, silly and it's not for me, but, like, to accuse somebody's hard work of being AI generated, I'm like, first of all, this really unhinged stuff is, like, there's no way AI could have written Chuck Tingle's works, like, there's just no way AI could be that off the wall.
Yeah, I
That is all the human mind, baby.
so her memoir was published in September 2025 and had a 3.5 on Goodreads, and based on the fact that it only had 200 reviews, doesn't seem like it really took off, which makes me wonder if she has somehow taken some of her blame out on, like, female romantasy writers for having success when I don't know.
I could see
Maybe I'm
that
just
being
trying
part
to
of
be
it,
too
and
sweet
yeah,
this
thank you for correcting. I thought it was, like, to come out this September, so I guess, yeah, that it's just been this buzz about it lately.
Well, and I was wondering if she had a 3.5 because fantasy readers went off on her account, but those real reviews that were written, like, months ago from, like,
Okay,
people who
yeah.
actually bought it.
That's what I think, like, people have been trying very hard to make sure that they're not just responding to her with the same kind of energy that she brought. I think to also make the point that I feel like as a more recent, entrant to the world of romantasy, romance, smut, all that kind of stuff, that I find it to be, like, such a friendly community and just full of
It's yeah,
mostly
it's
women, not all, and that it's just such a, like, supportive group of people who are like, Y'all, the world kind of sucks. Like, let us just have a fun little relaxing read where we don't think about it too much. And there's just a woman and a balloon animal dog that
Yeah, and everybody
have a little.
respects, like, "Oh, okay, you're into that, but you're not into that. Let me help you." Like, "Okay, you want
Yeah,
closed door, you want open door?" Like, yeah.
I have all these people that I follow on Instagram and things like that, that, they'll have like the whole variety that they're like, if you love romantasy and you liked this book, but you want like a one eggplant, one fire emoji, like kind of read, here's a whole page of books for you. Here's a whole page of books for you in the five emoji, which was I was going to look up for you, Kay, this book that I read. K.A. Knight, and it's A Court of Heathens. It's why I choose. It was very fun. It was a little bit more unhinged than what I usually read, but I didn't hate it. I think the thing was more that it was like a full-length book. So she does do a lot of world building, and there's this whole plot with a necromancer that they're all teaming up together to stop. And I was like there for the porn part of it. So I
Well,
did end up just mostly skipping the plot part eventually and like reading the sex scenes, which I did think were very fun and creative. And yeah, I didn't read a ton of the plot part of the book because I do feel like I agree with you that I'd rather either be reading it for the smut and then I'm just going to be like, let's skip to the sex scenes, or I want a really well done fantasy world building thing. And if it has some sex in it, that's cool. But it was kind of trying to be both.
I'm right now reading, A Ballad of Fallen Dragons, which is a sequel to, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. It was a really anticipated book that was
Mm
released yesterday. And I did like that it had a good story along with the love story and along with the family story, but they're going way, way into the plot. Like the first 50% of the book was the plot instead
hmm.
of the love pieces or the family pieces. And I was like, ooh, I don't know. I don't need to know about like all these like side characters and like evil villains and all that. Like get me back to like the human stories. But anyways,
No, I
trust
mean, I
it.
sometimes do find ones where they do both well, but that's not always
Well,
the
obviously
case.
Sarah J. Maas being like the queen of that. Also, even in Fourth Wing, like I objectively wanted to read about like the different dragon types and
Well, I
the
think she did.
school
I think
worked.
both of those authors did the romance well, but even that, if you're just reading it for pure, like, I want something to like kind of get things going, I feel like even
Jessica Kane, just short.
yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
what I'm saying.
Not that
That's
you
what I'm
would say
saying.
Jessica Kane, just like
I'm
something
gonna like
short and sexy.
I'm gonna like keep my genre separate. Like, I think that Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros like do the slow burn, the romance well, but
Mhm.
then it's also hard to have that be smutty because like if you're doing something that's, like, more, like, porny, smutty book, you can't wait until 60% in the book till they, like, have sex for the first time, but if you're doing something romancy, then they can't just, like, meet each other and start fucking, so it's kinda
Yeah.
hard to have both, you know what I'm saying? And I respect both for what they are, and sometimes also I also just read books that have neither, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go read some trash for a while.
Yeah. I always need a love story in the book. It doesn't matter whether it's open door, closed door, whether the sex is until 80% of the way through or it's to like the first chapter. I just need it.
So I do love a good like I also like romance books that is like a good slow burn. That's one of my favorite romance genres. It's just kind of like depends on what you're in the mood for. And I feel like we have discussed some excellent authors in all of those areas.
Yes. Well, Emily Weinstein, I hope that you have a better day. Because it just feels like you wouldn't have said hateful things if you weren't having a bad day.
I also feel like we should just like put together a reading list for her. Um, Both to show her the breadth and the depth of all these different genres that she is confusing, and also to show her that it can be incredibly mature when a unicorn is blowing its glittery load all over somebody's titties, and that can be
Everybody's
beautiful and thoughtful.
I have never read one book where unicorns are
To
sexualized
be
in
honest,
any
me
form.
neither.
Yeah.
So another gap
And I
that
have
some good
read
girl
all of
out there
them.
can fill.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find one. Well, as always, thank you for listening, dear girls. Have a great rest of your week.